What does it mean to be a citizen of the world? How many of us ask, what can we do versus what can I get or what's in it for me? It's amazing to think of the force of a movement when it has a powerful message of hope and possibility. Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." We don't just live in our own town, city, community, country, but in a world that has the capacity to support and protect its most challenged members for the sake of our shared vision of being human together. Meaning we have an obligation to improve the lives of others, not by telling them how to live, but by providing the opportunities for them to utilize their talents to support themselves and their families. Often in parts of the world, women continue to be exploited. But what if those same women were empowered through economic opportunities that translated into thriving communities? What if women can earn an income and discover their voices, educate their children, improve their homes, and advocate for their rights? Three very thoughtful, committed women ask these same questions, and you'll soon find out how they have created a movement of change that fosters economic freedom and community in both under-resourced countries and in our very own developed United States. What an incredible combination of entrepreneurship and social impact that continues to grow exponentially from a small seed planted post-college by these three adventurous citizens, not initially thinking they could change the world, but in fact, they are. Welcome to Small and Gutsy, our podcast featuring nonprofits and social impact organizations under $10 million. My name is Dr. Laura Witkoff, and I'm excited and proud to be your host. We hope you'll love the stories as much as we do, and perhaps you will find needed services, a job, volunteer, invest in, or donate. Please pass along any valuable information you hear today to others and send me the name of any organization you'd like featured at lwitkoff@gmail.com. That's 2 T's and 2 F's. Threads Worldwide, a fair profit. Notice I didn't say for profit. That's my definition of this organization. You've heard of fair market. Well, this is a fair profit social impact organization. Founded in 2011 by three women, Angela Melfi, Cara Valentine, and Lindsay Murphy, all exemplifying the earlier Margaret Mead quotation. These women are in fact changing the world. They partner with artisans in Bolivia, India, Ecuador, Vietnam, Indonesia, Guatemala, Thailand, Uganda, and other developing countries to create a growing market for handmade goods. By partnering with artisan cooperatives and businesses, they have created and continue to create dignified jobs for women who need them. That's not where the story ends, but continues across oceans and continents. In the United States, women are invited to launch their own social impact business as fair trade partners. Together with ambassadors who open their homes to host artisan showcases, these women create a global shopping experience. They share stories of artisan partners as they educate people on the life-changing power of fair trade commerce. I am so very excited to introduce my guests today, two of the three founders, Angela Melfi and Cara Valentine, along with Ambassador Ellen Goldstein, whom I have known for over 30 years as we were in the same social work program and neighbors in the Boston area at Boston University. We became reconnected through Threads Worldwide. So this is truly a very special episode. So let's get started. Welcome, Angela, Cara, and Ellen. Share your passion that started post-college and continues today. And Ellen, for you, how you got involved. So I don't know, Angela or Cara, who wants to start? Introduce yourselves and we'll get going.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's really fun to hear how people describe the work that we're doing. So thanks for doing that so beautifully. Yeah, my name is Angela, and Cara and I went to college together in Boston.
Oh, so, I don't think I knew that.
Yes. We went to school. We met on the volleyball court at Tufts University. Yeah. So right down the road from you all. Such a great school. I'm from Boston. We moved out to Colorado together, and we traveled really all around the world together. And every trip, we would find ourselves in the coffee shops. You know, as you do when you're traveling, you're sort of killing time between meals and daydreaming. And So we'd find ourselves in these coffee shops thinking about what can we do? We knew that we wanted to be in business together. We knew that we loved spending time together, hanging out together. We had the same interests and passions, and that we wanted to work together. So that was one of the things that the seeds that we were cultivating for a long time. And then whenever we were in a country that doesn't have the same living conditions that we do, it would be really in our face about what can we do? There's so much talent. There's so many beautiful things that these women are making, mostly women are making. We would see how and where they would be selling, which was trying to sell to each other or to the tourists. And, I'm sure a lot of us have been been on travels when people are coming up to you to sell, and there just wasn't, the market didn't really support the kind of talent that they had. And so we thought if we could connect these very talented, innovative, creative women with a strong market here in the United States, it could really accelerate the work that they're already doing. So the women that we're working with, they are entrepreneurs, they are trailblazers, they're transforming their communities right now. And so we want to come alongside them and really accelerate the work that they're doing. So we've been doing that for, 10 years. And you named the countries that we work in. We work in 8, I don't know if you named all of them, but we work in 8 countries. Yeah. We knew from the very beginning, that we wanted to do it through community selling. We wanted women here to be storytellers and to make an income and to be able to be passionate and get paid for what they're passionate about here in the United States. And so right from the very beginning, we knew that we were going to be selling and marketing fair trade items. That was like a core tenet. And then we also knew that we wanted to do it through the model that we use, which is direct sales. So women here can start their own small businesses and earn an income.
You're sharing a community across cultures and across economic barriers at times to connect folks to learn about one another through their trade and through their business practices. So I'm moved by what you're doing, and I want to create a whole new arena called fair profit. I really was like, that. Seriously, I started to think about this. I was like, oh my gosh, that's what they're doing. It's amazing.
I love that. Yeah, Kara.
When we first started, it was really focused on our artisan partners. The lack they were experiencing through resources and their lack of marketplace was so obvious. And that's really morphed over the years so that we really understand what the magic that's being created within the community of women here in the U.S. who are doing this work, and how really interdependent we are on one another. So, our partners in the countries that we work with around the world, they can't get all of their needs met and shift the future for their families without access to a marketplace. Well, women tapping into our community, whether they're doing it part-time or full-time, now have freedom and independence and the opportunity to really be in charge of the work that they're doing and do it in the way that's really true and authentic to them.
You've been in business for 10 years. In the beginning, this had to have been an incredible learning curve. You're laughing, but it must have been. And for you to be at the forefront of saying, we're going to plow ahead. We believe in this. We know this is going to ultimately bring everybody who's participating value in all kinds of ways. And so if you can just reflect a tiny bit, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ellen, who's an ambassador, and sort of get a feel for that role. But can you share with us sort of a little bit of that retrospective of what that must have been like and kind of where you are today?
Like I said, we always spend time in coffee shops dreaming, and we came up with some doozies. Let me tell you, some really interesting business ideas that luckily got stopped dead in their tracks when we started running some of the numbers. Yes, we're very grateful. But this one, you're right, Laura, we had, when we say zero experience, we didn't know. And this would always be the thing that would stop me before. I was like, oh, I like that idea, but I don't know how to create a website. Oh, I like that idea. I don't know how to set up a shipping run or something like that. And with this idea, it just was so obvious that this was what we were going to do, that everything else became something we were going to figure out. It just became, okay, well, the next thing. Kara was in a very unique time in her life I'll let her share about. But when I came to her with this idea, it just became like obvious that it didn't matter what we was going to take, we were going to figure this out. And it definitely morphed from the original idea to what it is now. But the main tenets were there. We're connecting women through a fair trade product and selling through a community.
And honestly, I think if an organization isn't flexible to be able to pivot and learn and continue to grow, it doesn't often survive. So kudos to all of you for figuring that out. Kara, did you want to add on to that?
Well, I'll just share a little bit about where I was when Angela had her, because it's hard to explain. It's this combination of this knowing, like almost in the spiritual realm of this is what we are meant to do. And the persistence and the non-negotiability and the courage and the depending on one another to, move us forward each step of the way. But when Ange had her light bulb of an idea, based on research she was doing, learning she was doing, people that she was meeting, understanding the power of investing in women and what that could do for the world. Well, I was at home working 2 jobs. I had a 2-year-old daughter, and I had a brand new newborn who was born at 2 pounds. She was the size of a dollar bill. She was not supposed to make it. We were told by the doctors to prepare to lose her, and we didn't. And we took her home more than 3 months later, and I was at home not eating, not sleeping, not being able to think. And Angela brings this idea up to me, and I thought she was out of her mind because none of it made sense logically. And then I had the aha, which I got chills all over my body. We talk about it Threads, #TrustTheChills, because that's cueing you in to listen to something.
Yep.
And I still get it when I tell the story every time. I had that wash over me of, oh, here I was given, what I consider to be a miracle. And, me having the resources that I had was the only way that this baby was going to live. And now I'm being offered the opportunity to pour my heart and my soul and my passion into creating opportunity for moms around the world who may not have that.
There are no words for that story in some ways that cannot be filled with compassion. And you said it yourself, a sense of spiritual connection to something and the beauty at which you thought you have the resources to have helped your own child. Why can't we do that for others who are, managing their own challenges? So you've connected all of those dots in an incredibly a beautiful way. And I commend you both and the third founder for just plowing forward and doing this. It's a tribute to each of you for trusting your gut, believing in your friendship and your relationship, and believing in something that's bigger than yourselves. And I'm very moved by that, and thank you for sharing that. What was it like to connect with the artisans on the ground who may have been individual artisans or connected already to a co-op, or how did you form those relationships? Because on some level, it has to be built on trust. You could be like anybody else who might exploit folks, and there are plenty of them, and I've certainly known a few. And so I love that you're not. And in that same question is what I do love is that you price things so reasonable and still are able to afford to both sell them and support folks on this side as well as support folks across the world.
Yeah, so we started at a shopping, what was it called, Kara? A shopping event or something in New York City. And here we are, we have our backpacks in tow, and we're just going out to the big city to try to find out who we're going to work with. And they had this massive buyer show, massive. They said if you walk the whole thing, it was 9 miles. Like that's how big this thing is, back and forth, back and forth. And they had one section that was global and handmade. And so that's where we started. And we just went to every single booth. We had I mean, I would have loved to have a little GoPro on us about what we were doing, because the conversations must have been hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, I will tell you one thing is that we always had Kara model, because when she modeled something, we were like, ooh, we really like it. I don't know what it is about her neck or something. She just has great earlobes. From there, I have no idea how many groups we came from out of there, but we knew that those organizations from the beginning, they were fair trade. They're part of the Fair Trade Federation. They're handmade. They were small. We just knew that. Then from there, I mean, over time, the relationships have changed. And, at one point we were working with, I believe it was 27 groups.
Wow.
And I thought when we got started, I thought, I want to be in every country. I want to be all over the world. And then when we started to really look at the impact, buying, one earring, a set of one earring to sell, that's not doing anything for anybody. So we really started to we said narrow to expand. So we narrowed our focus so we could expand and deepen our impact in the work that we're doing. And so that's how we got down to the groups that we work with. So we work with 9 groups in 8 countries. And a big part of the conversation that we have when we used to bring on new partners, we're not currently, we're really focusing on growing here first.
Right, smart.
So we can really, go deeper with them. But, some of the first conversations was just looking at their capacity to make sure that they could grow with us, and then also to make sure that they had enough of a diverse product line that, let's say that, one necklace sells really well, we want to be able to come back and buy more. So that was just built in from the conversation. And a lot of the groups that we work with are part of the Fair Trade Federation or the World Fair Trade Organization. So they're vetted by third party, which we're a part of as well. So we get vetted every single year.
Great.
Being in that organization, which I just want to hats off to them. I mean, they have a stiff process that you have to go through to prove yourself and be in the organization. The prices, our partners tell us up front what it is, and we don't negotiate. The way we might negotiate would be, okay, well, we can't do that, so what can you do to get it into this price range?
Yeah,
yes,
perfect.
something like that. Change this material, remove this, something like that. But other than that, we don't negotiate. And the thing that I want to say about fair trade is, fair trade is built off of a livable wage. So they take into account food, transportation, medical, all of that. That's part of their living wage. We're here, if you think about, if you go to a job at, minimum wage job at Burger King or something, they're going to tell you the price and you take it or you don't. And sometimes you don't have any other options and you have to start there. And it's not livable. And so that's one of the things about fair trade that I really love is built into the relationship that we have.
Ellen, I want to hand it over to you. How did you get involved, and how long have you been involved?
I'll answer that, and I would love to just build on something Ange just said about the fair trade model, because hearing Kara tell that story was one of the things that drew me into Threads. And I think about it just from the perspective of all of us could be artisans and open up a store and make things to sell, and we would never be guaranteed to sell everything we make.
Yeah.
And the distinction of the Threads model, which really drew me in, that Ange was just starting to refer to, is they not only don't haggle on the pricing, and they treat the artisans with the due professional respect that they deserve, but then they pay 50% up front once the purchase is agreed to, so that there are no micro grants that are needed, no microfinancing, that the artisan co-ops have the money they need to both buy their materials as well as keep current with paying the artists. And then when they go to ship, they pay the other 50%, which means that they've been paid 100% for what they've made before the box ever arrives here in the home office. And there's not really another model we can think of where people are guaranteed 100% to sell what they've made. So Threads absorbs the risk, both as the home office entity and also as, we've been using Fair Trade Partners. We also use the term socialpreneurs to describe what we do. But we both, in different ways, absorb the risk of making sure that we sell what was made. because it's been paid for 100%. And that really, like sometimes when we do gatherings and we meet customers and they say, well, what percentage of this piece goes to the artist and what percentage of this piece goes to the women? It's like, this is so much bigger and broader than that. And in a way that, as Ange and Kara were saying before, it creates a much bigger impact in the community that the artisans are living in. If we're talking about the percentage off of one bracelet or the percentage off of one necklace versus the guaranteed 100% of the shipment that was sent, that allows for impact, that allows for reinvestment, that allows for kids to go to school, for clean water filters to be purchased, for homes to be upgraded, all of that to be done. And that really, hearing that part of the story when I first got involved was one of the distinguishing dynamics that said, this is different. We can do something to really make a lasting change.
You definitely are. And it really, for me, it speaks to sustainability, because any of that path, if there's a blockage because they don't have the resources, then it stops their whole thing, whether it's production, whether it's purchasing materials, whether it's shipping. And then, whereas you've created this smooth, straight line, and then you deal with it on this side, which is brilliant and wonderful. And it really speaks to the commitment you all have for the folks in these developing countries who are challenged by things that many of us here are not. And so to support that and to celebrate their artistry is quite beautiful. It's really
and it really
remarkable.
has to be this whole complete system where everybody is thriving. Because
For
if
sure.
any one part starts to not work, is as the great of intentions that we have, if we have piles and piles of jewelry in the back, we can't reorder from them. One of the campaigns that we ran this year, I think it was in October, we went and we put in our purchase order for spring summer with our partners in India, and they said, we're still in the middle of a work crisis. Is there anything you can do to increase your purchase order? And we just looked and we thought responsibly, we really, we could now because we want to, but then in November, it's just going to catch up with us if we haven't sold things. So we ran a campaign that we called Elevate India, #Elevate India. And in that campaign, we really focus on selling India products. And within, Kara, what was it again? Within a 7-day period, we sold 7 times the amount we'd sold the weeks before. And we were able to go back to our partners and increase our purchase order. We almost doubled our purchase order with them.
So great. So there is this other piece that you can run a campaign specifically for a country or for a group of artisans. And I think you also can run something where people can really donate for a purpose and not receive a product at all, which is also unusual, which I think makes you particularly unique. Ellen, I want to go back to what's the difference between a partner on this side, someone who's kind of developing their own socialpreneur business, and an ambassador?
The term ambassador is synonymous with host.
Okay.
So in a community selling model and really trying to leverage, getting the word out and doing that through personal relationships, we've changed the vernacular over time, and ambassadors are people who host a gathering and introduce threads to their respective communities. And that used to be, over 95% of the business was in-home gatherings and in-person gatherings pre-pandemic. And now, Threads has done amazing work pivoting to really leverage Zoom and Facebook and text gatherings and virtual gatherings, and really continuing to not just exist but thrive during a time that the business model really needed to shift. So whether somebody's hosting a text gathering, whether they're inviting their friends to their backyards, whether they're going live on Facebook and connecting through social media, those are all hosts or ambassadors who are introducing kind of the bridge between us, people like me who are selling, and those who haven't met Threads yet or want an opportunity to shop.
So socialpreneurs are people like Ellen, who they've started, we call them social impact entrepreneurs, right? So socialpreneurs.
Perfect.
And then socialpreneurs speak with hosts to host gatherings, basically.
So it's like
grab their friends.
coaching if they haven't done it before, learning how to start their business. Okay.
How to invite their friends. Some people host and they don't ever want to start the business. And those.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could host one event if you wanted to.
Yeah.
That's great. So there's so many opportunities to sort of jump in here, which is really great and help at any level one can. So walk us through the different opportunities that people have to participate, just so it doesn't get confusing for folks out there.
One way to get involved is just by hearing the thread story and sharing it. Like even before you became a customer, you heard the thread story, Laura, and you shared that or talked about it at a dinner table or shared it with your children or neighbors or what have you. And the second part is by making a purchase, because making a purchase benefits, everybody in this ecosystem that you were referring to before and helps us give more work to the partners. A third way is by offering to host and gather your friends. We make it really turnkey and simple for people to do that. We give you copy that you can cut and paste to share out to your world and bring people together either by text or Zoom or Facebook or, safely as this pandemic is, evolving in our lives, and bring together a group of people who might be interested in hearing more about threads and purchasing and supporting what we're doing. And the other is by joining the team. I mean, by becoming a socialpreneur, fair trade partner like I am in this mix, we have an incredible group of, I call like a curated community of amazing people who are selling across the country, who are people who otherwise might not have met each other under other circumstances, who are all aligned around doing this meaningful work. And some people are in it just because of the mission, and they do what they can do in their busy lives. Some people have made it a full-time, commitment in terms of their primary source of income. Others, like me, I have another business that I work on, and I got involved with Threads because I wanted something I could do from anywhere that would introduce me to new like-minded people, that would give me extra revenue as my child went to college. Threads just checks all those boxes in a way that has meaning for me. And I know when you sell, you can earn, different incentives for different levels of selling. At Threads, the motivation is to earn trips to go visit the women artisans. So for me, that was another huge hook in, that in addition to being with this incredible group of people, helping to support the artisans in developing countries in a really direct way, being able to make some additional revenue for myself, and then to be able to travel, to earn the ability to travel, to not just go travel like an American tourist, but to go and travel and meet the women, see how the jewelry is made, visit their communities, learn life from their lens and not our lens, is very powerful. And we are leaving for Guatemala in just 60 days maybe, which is very special for me because my daughter's adopted from Guatemala.
I also would love for each of you to reflect if sort of maybe the first time one of those trips was made and the experience of actually meeting the artist, knowing that you've created some income for yourself on this side and you've done this amazing support. And it's not charity. It really is, you're valuing their work and their ability to contribute and their talents. And it's this mutual respect that I'm feeling through this Zoom conversation that emerges from this ability to connect in person, in the example of a trip. Can each of you speak to that a little bit, or the experience of, I know you're going to have it in 60 days, but previous to COVID where that may have occurred?
I'll jump in, and I want to just go backwards a second, Laura, before I jump in there. So I want to get into sort of our overarching ideological framework that we work with Threads, which is revolutionary. We've created it based on what we were seeing within our community and what we believe can really transform the world, and that's what we call our elevation ecosystem. So I know, Laura, you've said the word system a couple times and talking about straight lines, where really it's this circle where we're all connected within this ecosystem. And within the ecosystem, we do have this shared collective vision that we're all behind. Every member is connected, and the lens that we look, through is everyone touching elevated for their participation.
Perfect.
And, sort of the rules that we live by within this ecosystem is what we call our Threads family values. So we have 7 of them. It spells out Threads. Together we rise. We choose collaboration over competition. That is a really big one.
I love it.
And the elevate piece, which I want to talk about a little bit, the E around, it started as the idea of equal partnerships. We've been brought up to think about relationships with people, I'll speak for myself, that look different, that live differently, as separate from me, as different. And at Threads, we're really all about rewriting that story around there's nobody more important within this ecosystem. Each one of us plays a critical role. So it is, when we go to travel, and I'll share a little bit about our travels to Guatemala. Anja and I have been, we can't remember, 4 or 5 times now. But that first trip we took to Guatemala, what was sort of a passion project became our non-negotiable life's work. After going and visiting and seeing and hearing firsthand the transformation that's happening within these communities, and understanding the critical role that we came back recognizing the privilege that we have to be in this role, and the responsibility of, this is our life's work. And so in Guatemala, it's not, you don't go and, look at the artisans, watch them do X, Y, and Z. Okay, we're going to the next stop of the tour. This is come and be with your partners. And communication is really interesting because they, speak their own language that's then translated to Spanish, that is then translated to English. But our partner there figures out how do you transcend that. So we do dream circles where we're drawing and we're talking and we're sharing and really getting to the root of and the understanding that underneath it all, we all want the same thing. We all long for the same thing. So that's the type of travel, and I'll let you, Anne, share a little bit. We also took a trip to Bali and got to meet Mrs. Karyawati and meet her daughter, who she was able to adopt because of the work that she's able to do with this cooperative. Ange, I don't know if you want to jump in.
Yeah, just the first time that we met one of our partners, Santos, and she lives on a touristy part of Lake Atitlan, which is a very touristy part of Guatemala. But her particular part of the lake didn't have power. We get off this boat and we walk up this hill. I mean, when I talk about a hill, Laura, it is, viewers can't see. What degree is this? It's 45 degree? I don't know. It's steep. So we walk to the top of this hill and we walk in, and there's probably, 20 women there working. There's chickens and dogs everywhere. Half the women are nursing their kids, and they're working and talking and being in community. And it just immediately made me think of, that's one of the things that people are so drawn to here in the U.S., that I can do this work while I'm taking care of the kids and the house and my work and whatever else I'm doing, right? You can be able to fit this in wherever you can in your life. And so that was one thing that struck me right away. And then I remember after a little bit into the conversation, we asked her, so how did you find these women? How did you build this production team? And because the way that they're structured is they find one leader in the community to really lead the charge. They make sure it's a woman. And this woman, Santos, she was actually the 5th one in line because the previous 4 had experienced too much domestic violence in their attempt to start this. So Santos comes along. She's 19. She had, probably 1.5-year-old, I'm going to guess. And so we said, how did you meet all of these women to have them be part of the group? And she said, what did she say? She said, I didn't know any of them. I had to start asking around because what it was they got married at 15-ish, moved in with their in-laws, and took care of that family, and that's what they did. There was no community center. There's no church. There's no yoga classes that they're going to. That's what they do, is take care of their family. So she didn't have any social life. And I just think about this too, how I would get through my life without my girlfriends and being able to get together and gather and talk about everything. And so not only did she create for these women a way to earn an income and a way to improve their families' homes and make sure their kids are going to school, she also created for these women a social network, friendships, for them to be able to speak with each other and work with each other on things. When we're having really hard times, they now had somebody, not just like an ear and an outlet, but also a community now to be able to help and lean on each other. And just to think that did not exist before this. That was not going to happen in this community.
Amazing, because you're really talking about psychological well-being that comes sort of naturally when you can afford it and are privileged in an arena of a sense of freedom versus a sense of obligation where you don't have that opportunity, but you built it into what you have created through Threads Worldwide, which is, I can only imagine how that has shifted the way both communities operate, but the thinking in terms of what's possible. Ellen, I don't know if you have a quick story, and your daughter's from Guatemala. Is she going with you, by the way, on this trip?
She is going with me. We don't really take kids on the trip, but now she's old enough with the delay that we had from not being able to travel for the last couple of years, and she's really interested in wanting to see some of the women that she's seen on video when the artists can join us, on Zoom. And she's met Maria Pacheco, who is the founder of the cooperative in Guatemala. And the story for me is at my first Threads event, which I think was only a month or two after I got involved with Threads, once a year, all of the people who are selling come together at a conference called Gather. And Maria was at that conference, and she was telling the story of these dream circles that Kara and Ange were referring to. And all of a sudden, I just got this huge hit of what if, while I was in the room with this dream circle exercise, thinking about what if some of the women who are in the cooperatives were pregnant and otherwise would have had no other option but to place their child for adoption. And now, because of the work of Threads, they have a meaningful way to earn an income, and they would have a choice. And maybe they would still choose to place their child for adoption, but maybe they would choose to raise their child because they now had a reliable, sustainable opportunity to make money. So, yeah, it was crying within the first 10 minutes of the quick bonding with the other people. And
I have to ask, you don't have a big staff, from what I understand. So it may seem like you do, but I don't think you do. So tell us a little bit about that. It's really the network that you've created and the resources and support. And do you all lead most of those Zooms, or do your mentors, or how do you share that within your larger community?
We have a national call every week where everybody can join. We just got off of it, actually. And it's about 30 minutes. We usually go a little bit over, if I'm being honest. And we do some kind of training. And then we break down, every week, into a call to actions. And we say, here's your one thing. If you can focus on one thing this week, because people like Ellen, other women, they're doing other things. They're working other jobs. And they sometimes just need the one thing to focus on. So that helps them earn points to Bolivia. Meanwhile, it's helping them build their business. So that's one kind of support that we do. And then, like Kara mentioned, different people in the field, maybe they're an expert at running events online, running in-person events for churches or something like that. They'll do a specific training that we call a Zumba, where then they'll invite people and people can come and learn directly from them.
Yeah, I'm going to make an observation. When the two of you met in college, three of you initially, I think, and traveled there, I'm guessing you already set the culture together that now is infiltrated in this whole environment, that you are true collaborators and supporters and believe in the power of women working together, not exclusively, but women working together in this context. And so that culture has emanated throughout the entire organization and has never changed. over the last 10 plus years. And it really speaks to embedding not just the values for value's sake, but the behaviors. I teach on this, so I love to talk about it. The behaviors that actually coincide with the values, because the values in name alone do nothing. It's really the behaviors, and that's what you're demonstrating both on this side, in other countries, and within the community. I think, Ellen, at least from what you're saying, that captured you outside of the beautiful story that Kara shared and that Anne shared before about her, just the ideas coming and wanting to work in a setting that fostered those values, and you live by them, and it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Like you, and going back to how we met, Laura, like my whole career has been in human resources, organizational development, consulting with different organizations around building culture. And I don't think many people can walk through the hallways of even many of the organizations I work with and not just repeat what the values are, but then repeat them in other parts of their life. One value like right now, don't wait to be ready, people talk about all the time. They also talk about, and a Karen Ange model, authenticity over perfection. Like, don't try to get it perfect, and don't worry about it if it's not perfect. Just be authentic, own it, be honest. But the whole Threads community can absolutely talk about authenticity over perfection because of what you're saying, that they embody that and they model it in their own leadership.
From the very beginning, from the partnership in the very beginning, and that's what's so remarkable. It's real. I'm working with organizations now. Ellen, you couldn't have said it better. And so it's really trying to connect those, because once you've created that culture, everybody wants to join in. Right? It's like you want to be there because you feel safe, you feel good, you feel celebrated. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be authentic. And you're welcoming people in of their true essence, their true self. And you're creating that standard. So I could go on, and I don't want to do more of that, but I'm so impressed and so moved by what you've created.
To Ellen, I don't have that experience that you have, that lens that you have in corporate jobs and companies and in consulting that you do. And to hear that, it just makes me, really proud. And it is something that when we were looking at the family values, it's like, well, what's here that we can start putting words around that's so important for us to make sure that we keep top of mind and that we use, especially during the pandemic at the beginning, that's what we leaned into literally every day. Okay, that's what we made our decisions around. And to know that that's unique, I don't know, I'm just proud. So thanks for sharing that.
And it took so much. It's interesting because we have had that conversation that really the culture is based on our friendship and relationship. And I'm getting a little teary thinking about what had to happen over all of these years and how we've evolved together as friends and within this organization, and have really continued to show up to say, I'm going to be my true self. I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to show up and be brave.
Right.
And there are so many things in our lives that we've had to go through together to flex those muscles. It wasn't like we met on the volleyball court and it's like, here we are. These are the values we live by. We always joke with each other. We've been through a lot, old girl.
But showing up for each other, and I want to add welcoming in new members who share that and want to live by that and want to learn from it. And so by that example, you are not only creating the purpose and mission of Threads Worldwide, but you're giving folks the opportunity to really be in that space and share in that light. And I cannot express to you how meaningful that is for so many. So go ahead and get teary, because I'm getting teary. No, it's much more than a business. Share with me any of a story from start to finish of these women who have created these pieces. I don't know who wants to share a story.
Well, I was just what I love about the example of the Mille is that it's made in Ethiopia, and you guys can correct me with what piece I might be off on this, but women who become HIV positive are sort of shunned from their community and sent out into the hills they're ostracized, and that means their whole family is, the children, their spouses, and their whole life is uprooted. And they end up in begging communities in the mountain towns. And what happened with this one artisan co-op is that they would use metals. Some of the pieces of metal were upcycled bullet casings from the long-standing Ethiopian war. And they repurposed, melted down and repurposed that into beads and taught the women to make these beautiful bracelets. And as a result, they're now living with roofs over their heads, with their children in school, with access to health care. And what I love about the story of Threads is this Millet bracelet from Ethiopia is one of the best sellers over the long time tenure of Threads. But what I love about it is they started with just buying this one piece. But as we sold more and more Millet bracelets, then all of a sudden now the women are learning more skills and more craft, because now we're buying earrings, and now we're buying a complementary necklace, and now the beading is different, and the sizing is different, and the styling is different. So when we talk about, really elevating an ecosystem and not just selling one piece of jewelry and the broader impact it can have, I look at this bracelet when I wear it and play with it all the time, and it reminds me of the power and the beauty that can come out of devastation and out of out of sickness, out of war, out of poverty. And here we are, carrying their stories on our wrists.
One of the groups that we work with in India, they are women who were literally rescued from the brothels. Rescued out of the brothels. And there's a lot of rehabilitation that goes into having them be safe and get healthy and all of those things. And one of the things after some of those core elements are taken care of is they start training them in metalsmithing. And they purposely picked metalsmithing because it's in India a traditionally male-focused industry. And in India, there's a lot of gender inequality. There's still the caste system. And so there's some elements that we don't even begin to understand here of what the uphill battle that these women have. And so they specifically train them in metalsmithing so that way they could be on par with some of their male colleagues. So these women are the very first female metalsmiths in all of India. And do you know how many people are in India? A lot. A lot of people are in India. These are the first female metalsmiths. And they are trained to take metal, turn it into beautiful pieces of jewelry that we carry and sell. And through that, they're transforming, metal into something beautiful just as they're going through the same process themselves. And they also, I really do hesitate telling the story about where they first started, but I do think that it gives this full picture of what triumph they've had, and that they really don't relate. They definitely don't relate to themselves as victims. They don't even relate to themselves as survivors. They relate to themselves as the first female metalsmiths in all of India. It's amazing. Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by the Intrinsic Group, my boutique management consulting firm specializing in guiding organizations to leverage talent, optimize processes, and to ensure the organization's narrative is aligned with their culture. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, please reach out to us. To see all the small but mighty organizations we featured, check out our incredible infographics in the stories section of the Intrinsic Group website. So toward the end of my podcast, I always ask a set of quick and gutsy questions. So you'll each get an opportunity to answer these. There's no pressure. They're just fun. So if you guys are ready, I'm ready.
Ready. Yes, we're ready.
What is at the top of your wish list for Threads worldwide? But the answer can't be money or funding. What's at the top of your wish list?
More women in our community.
Great. What else?
Oh, I was going to say the same. And specifically, our mission is to put income and resources into the hands of impact-driven women. So,
great.
Impact-driven women.
I'm going to the same place, not as a cop-out, but because I think it's the core of Threads. It's getting to the next level and scaling is really about welcoming more people under the tent. And that's not necessarily about welcoming new artisan partners, because we have amazing artisan partners, and to the beginning of this, about going deep into those communities. That's really about welcoming more people who can help us expand their reach, the reach of the artisans.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be amazing if more organizations in general had the concept of fair profit, really had the concept? Wouldn't the world be just a better place? You know, how much is enough, you know? So that's my secret wish for all of you. Like, let's really spread your culture and your message, not only for Threads Worldwide, but really as a way to be, because it really does change the way we think about what's enough, you know? If you were to think of a song that describes Threads Worldwide, Ellen, you're smiling, what would it be? So a song that describes Threads Worldwide.
I kept thinking of, what was that collaboration song of We Are the World?
And if this world runs out of lovers, we'll still have each other.
Nothing's gonna stop us. Nothing's gonna stop us now.
Ooh. Oh, I'll keep going.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. Oh my God. You've just made my podcast moment. I have to say, all of you. I just love it, love it, love it. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful.
That is the biggest gift that I can give to this podcast community. The absolute biggest gift. We all know our talents, and I know that is not one of mine.
That's why I didn't join in. Trust me. I just love listening and I love music. So thank you. What makes Threads Worldwide gutsy? You've said a lot, but I want to know what makes it gutsy.
I'll just say we're just rewriting the rules of how businesses are run, and beyond that, just who we get to be as women and who we get to be in community. You know, we're not following any sort of map or framework that's been created. We're creating something that's our own, that the world really needs.
I think the non-negotiable piece that we've had, from the beginning, not having any skills, not to toot our own horn, no skills, but all the way through, you know, the pandemic where we had to do a pivot within a week. There was the non-negotiable that this was happening. So I think that makes us gutsy.
And I just have to push back on you for a second. You both had the skill. You had the skill of connection with each other and the belief that you knew you wanted to do something together. And that set the tone and the culture of which we've talked about today, which is an example for every organization. And actually, I'd like to hold up your organization when I do my consulting, just because of this. So I'm hoping to spread the word of Threads Worldwide as an example of an organization that sets their culture, lives by their culture, and then who knows, you make it a few more people under your tent. Why not, right? Why not?
Can we offer some specials to those people who might want to come under our tent? So what are a couple of specials we can offer? We can offer 15% off for a new customer that would mention this podcast, and I'll share how that would happen. Remember how we said 4 ways to get involved? One is listening to this. The other is shopping. So for shopping, we would definitely offer 15% off to a new customer who would support Threads. And they would go there, Ange, I missed
and enter small and gutsy.
They would go to threadsworldwide.com/Ellen, and then in the promo code, when they're checking out, they would enter small and gutsy spelled out. We also talked about another way to get involved is to host. And if somebody was interested in hosting a gathering and helping us spread the word to other people, in addition to you earn free jewelry credits by hosting, as our thank you to you, I would also add a free gift of another piece of Threads jewelry to anybody who mentions this podcast and offers to host as a result of it. And if somebody decides they want to join me and the rest of these amazing women and really earn an income and start a business of any size, in addition to whatever jewelry credit, whatever jewelry package they would buy to start, we would add $100 extra in free jewelry. if they've joined as a result of listening to this podcast.
This is great. So that's what makes you gutsy. You'll, in a moment, we hadn't talked about any of this. And look what just happened. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. So when we post the episode and all of our marketing, we're going to include that offer. So what is something that outsiders or maybe even a few insiders don't know about Threads Worldwide?
I mean, how many times have we said we've had no experience? People probably think that we've had some sort of fashion, design, any type of background, which we haven't.
We have good taste. Okay, good taste. We'll say that.
Something they don't know is when we first launched and we got our first our first jewelry, our first beautiful jewelry from our artisan partners. And at this point, we were like taking big risks by ordering 10 of things. We went and stopped at like a Bennigan's or like a restaurant like that and then left all of the jewelry there.
Oh, accidentally, I assume.
Entire inventory, we get back to the office and we don't have it.
That was panicky. There was the time a few people, most socialpreneurs know this, but we did a launch and we did it at Kara's house. This is pandemic, where basically our office just turned into a warehouse. And I went to her house and we were almost ready, and I realized I forgot all of the jewelry at the office. So Kara, I mean,
like a bat out of hell,
races to the office. Somebody meets her downstairs, gives it, comes back, and I mean, I joined the meeting a minute late, which I never do. And she comes to me, and I wrote out this whole thing, and I said, "Okay, everybody, and here we go for our first piece." And I hold my hand over it. Kara puts it in my hand, and I start talking about it. I mean,
I had my kids on with the list outside. My kids were involved. That is something I will say about Angela Melfi, is her grace under pressure is unparalleled. I do not have that gene. I don't think I could get on screen because I was so sweaty and hyperventilating. But the fact that she's just able to be like, okay, and our first piece is...
What a great partnership, because that's a great balance. One's going to run and the other one's just going to be, okay, we're ready to roll. So my last quick and gutsy, if you could get one celebrity or influencer to talk about Threads Worldwide, who might that be?
Emma Watson. She's very big in fair trade and sustainability and all that.
I'm going cheating with the power couple of Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach.
She's worn our jewelry on her Instagrams and stuff, yeah.
When you were talking before, for some reason I was thinking Reese Witherspoon, breaking barriers and entrepreneurship and claiming ownership of, your own success.
That's a great choice too. I think all of them are for very different reasons, and we'll try to reach out to them and see what happens. But I think there's a little gift box going to any of them at some point, although it sounds like Glennon Doyle wears your jewelry and is promoted. So that's a perfect reason to highlight that. So how can folks reach you? What's the best way to find you?
On Instagram, Facebook, and our website. We'll keep it simple for you. Threads Worldwide. ThreadsWorldwide.com. Instagram, the handles are Threads Worldwide.
What a fantastic example of a fair profit organization. I love that, because there's nothing wrong with being a for-profit, but there's a cap on what that profit is, and you've made it crystal clear that it needs to be fair everywhere, and there is beauty in the equity that you believe in, that is part of your culture and your connection, and what you are doing to change and transform how we do business globally. And I just want to take a moment and thank each of you for bringing me into the tent in one way or another, right? I just feel like the community is quite remarkable. And I've so appreciated you taking the time with me today. It's been great.
Back to you, Laura. Thanks.
Once you're in, you're in.
Thanks for bringing us all here together, Ellen.
Thank you for listening. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends, give us some stars, and write a review on wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're interested in sponsoring a small and gutsy episode to keep it going, please reach out to me or buy us a coffee at www.buymeacoffee.com/small and gutsy. Just an FYI for those of you who might want to be a Small and Gutsy patron, we just released our Patreon site with some really fun first edition Small and Gutsy merchandise. So check us out to support this effort at patreon.com/Small and Gutsy. Of course, we can't take responsibility outside of our own vetting of the organizations we interview, meaning we encourage you to do your own due diligence and research them as well. I want to thank my partners in this endeavor, the Intrinsic Group, the volunteers, my co-producer, sound engineer, and composer, the amazing Pavel Franson, my infographic creator extraordinaire, Sonia Fizek, Nate Addy for the exceptional logo, and all the friends and family who have guided and inspired me. A very special thank you to my biggest champion, without whom I could not have created this project, my very best friend and a true sounding board. Thanks, Mark Witkoff. Thanks for being there. From small and gutsy to big with impact, I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.